But yes, we do consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes only.
Greetings, fellow awakening mammals, and welcome back to Awakening Apes, where we try to guide you through the realms of mystery and intrigue. Beneath the veneer of opulence and privilege that the world's elite hold, a shadowy speculation lingers. Whispered rumors of a hidden society that transcends mortal boundaries. Could it be that these wealthy titans, whose influence shapes the destiny of nations, harbor a timeless secret? Much like the elusive vampires of folklore, they orchestrate the world's affairs from the shadows, their fortunes merely a facade for an existence sustained by an insatiable thirst for more than material wealth. As society remains oblivious to this fantastical notion, the question lingers. Are the wealthiest among us, the puppeteers of global influence, not merely captains of industry, but immortal beings who have thrived across the ages, their wealth an illusion concealing a deeper, darker truth? The whispers persist, inviting the curious to peer beyond the veneer and unveil the enigma that may be lurking within the echelons of wealth and power. Today, we are diving deep into the shadows to explore a question that has fascinated humanity for centuries. Do vampires still exist? And if so, do they play a role in the modern world? Buckle up, because this is going to be a journey into the depths of human depravity. Before we sink our teeth into the topic, pun intended, let's take a quick trip down memory lane.
I am Dracula.
Vampires have been a staple in folklore and pop culture for centuries, from the ancient tales of blood-sucking creatures to Twilight. But could there be more to these stories than mere fiction? Throughout history, rulers and influential figures have been surrounded by rumors and mystique. But what if there's more to their power than political prowess? Some theorists suggest that certain leaders might be immortal beings, feeding off the life force of their subjects to sustain their rule. Join me as we explore the historical context of this intriguing theory. Could tales of tyrants and despots hiding in the shadows be more than metaphorical? We will delve into intriguing insights regarding the symbolism and psychology underlying these legends. Our mission at Awakening Apes is to bring light to the shadows of society, but it is important to stay and think positive, no matter how cruel the following topics might be. Our emotions and thoughts can shape our realities, so be mindful and don't get consumed by dark thoughts. So let's get started. But first, the intro. The word vampire has sunk its fangs deep into our collective imagination, but where did this term come from? The journey begins in Eastern Europe, where centuries-old folklore introduced us to creatures that drain the life force from the living. But it wasn't until the early 18th century that the word vampire made its way into Western European languages. Historical records trace the etymology of vampire through Slavic languages, where upir or Nosferatu were used to describe similar creatures. The word slowly crept into German and French, evolving into vampire and vampire, eventually making its way into English. In the dawn of folklore and mythology, vampires were primal creatures, driven solely by their thirst for blood. These early depictions painted them as mindless, malevolent entities, often resembling soulless revenants or demonic forces, more akin to how we would perceive zombies today. But why? It all goes back to ancient beliefs and fears surrounding death and the unknown. Vampires were perceived as harbingers of disease, creatures without coherent consciousness, embodying pure evil. Let us have a deeper look of a few personalities throughout history who might have been a form of vampire. Fast forward into France of the 15th century. Gilles de Rais. Once hailed as a heroic companion of Joan of Arc, Gilles' descent into darkness was swifter than the swing of a guillotine blade. He lived during the 100-Year War. Initially celebrated for his valour, he amassed significant wealth and titles, but his life took a dark turn after Joan of Arc's execution. He even became a marshal. What is the rank of marshal in France, you might ask? It is not a military rank, but is granted to generals for exceptional achievements. He became really famous for beating the English, even still during his time alive. De Rais blew his fortune on extravagant pursuits, leading him into financial ruin. Subsequently, he became involved in occult practices and was accused of committing heinous crimes, including the abduction, torture, and murder of numerous children. According to the story, he hired a dark magician from Venice in order to get his finances back in check. The magician told de Race the rituals will only work with blood. So allegedly, de Rain and his followers went from resident to resident and abducted hundreds of children to sacrifice. He later got arrested and hung and burned. Imagine what it must have taken for him to be executed. He once was the saviour of France, a noble light. For our next long-fanged friend, we have to jump 200 years to the 17th century. Elizabeth Bathory, a Hungarian noblewoman, has become infamous in history as the Blood Countess, or Countess Dracula. The story of Elizabeth Bathory is both fascinating and eerie. Elizabeth Bathory, a Hungarian countess from the 17th century, belonged to an influential noble family. Bathory lived in a time when the Balkans and Hungary were in a constant state of war with the Ottoman Empire. She stood out as a powerful and wealthy woman. She wasn't just a stateswoman, but also a strategically thinking matriarch with several castles. Her significance as one of Hungary's prominent female figures stemmed from her resistance against the Turks, successfully holding her ground in battles. Turning our attention to the Bathory family, with roots dating back to 1310, we find a name that seems to mock fate. Bathory translates to good hero. The irony lies in the family legend surrounding a semi-mythical figure, Vitus Bathory. Legend has it that around 900 AD, Vitus valiantly faced and triumphed over a rampaging dragon, earning not only the Bathory name, but also ownership of Exed Castle. The twist? Exed Castle wasn't constructed until the 1300s, a chronological hiccup that adds a layer of complexity to their familial saga. We will dig deeper into dragons and their hidden symbolism in a future episode of Awakening Apes. The Countess earned the nickname Blood Countess due to her cruel actions, initiating the tormenting and deadly practices inflicted on her staff. The number of victims, primarily young girls, ranged from at least 85 to over 600. Interestingly, her family's coat of arms displays 3 dragon teeth, or perhaps 3 fangs. Bathory's crimes came to light when, due to the excessive abuse of young girls in her vicinity, she eventually ran out of a fresh supply.
Shutdown password. What is it?
Harvest.
Put it in.
She even began luring young noble girls to her castle, subjecting them to the same cruelty. Ultimately, it was a simple country noble who brought the matter to light, leading to a trial. Bathory was never directly charged because in her time, there was no crime for killing people of lower status. Nevertheless, she was confined to her castle, where she passed away a few years later. The story of Elizabeth Bathory is marked by a morbid atmosphere, and her deeds became publicly known only through her attacks on other noble families. If she would have kept her dark tendencies with the peasants, we would probably celebrate her as a shining example of a powerful and independent woman. Next, we will jump another couple centuries, to the 18th and 19th century, the Romantic era, and the rise of Gothic literature. Here we will find the first literature of intelligent vampires with charisma and cunning. Works like The Vampire and Dracula transformed vampires into complex, sophisticated figures.
I am Count Ladislas Dracula.
Mirroring cultural shifts towards exploring the complexities of the human psyche. Let's find out who first coined and invented the modern vampire. John Polidori was Lord Byron's personal physician during the summer of 1816, famously known as the Year Without a Summer, marked by severe climate abnormalities. Volcanic eruptions, including Mount Tambora, caused global cooling, leading to crop failures and widespread famine. Am I painting a picture? Byron, along with Percy Shelley and Mary Shelley, yes, the Mary Shelley who wrote Frankenstein, but let's focus on one monster at the time. They all spent the summer at the Villa Diodati near Lake Geneva. Inspired by Byron's charismatic and enigmatic personality, Polidori penned The Vampire in 1819, creating a character named Lord Ruthven, who bore a striking resemblance to Byron. Polidori seemed captivated by Byron's allure, charisma, and rumoured dark inclinations, weaving them into the vampiric character. The Vampire explores the theme of the charming yet predatory vampire, reflecting Polidori's perception of Lord Byron's complex personality. The work was initially published under Byron's name, leading to confusion about its authorship. Polidori's creation of Lord Ruthven stands as a literary reflection of his observations of Byron's extravagant lifestyle, adding an intriguing layer to vampire folklore. This connection between author and character highlights the influence of personal experiences and relationships on artistic creations, creating a timeless link between Lord Byron and the enduring legacy of vampire literature. Lord Byron, born into an aristocratic family, inherited significant wealth and titles. His family's holdings included vast estates, granting him substantial income.
Didn't think your mum and dad would leave you with nothing though, did you?
Byron's charm and eloquence furthered his social standing, enabling connections with influential figures, contributing to his reputation as a wealthy and well-connected. Lord Byron faced scandalous allegations involving incest, questionable relationships with minors, and even far darker deeds, which we can't mention on this family-friendly channel. His tumultuous affairs and extravagant lifestyle stirred gossip in society, contributing to his controversial reputation. Byron's libertine behaviour and rocky personal life became an integral part of his legacy, overshadowing even his literary achievements in some circles. Well, doesn't this seem oddly familiar? Is it possible that Polidori wanted to tell us something? Perhaps even warn us? Did he know more about the elites of his time?
Groundhog Day!
He certainly couldn't have said anything straight out without risking his standing. Maybe he felt the need to hide the truth behind a story. It does seem odd that he published the book first under Lord Byron's name, doesn't it? Somewhere between a whistleblower and a storyteller. Most of you will know who Mary Shelley was, so I will spare you a long introduction. But some people also see Frankenstein as a warning. Maybe she was the very first person trying to warn us of transhumanism. She certainly was in the right circles to know something. All of the previously mentioned monsters are characterized by wealth, power, and connections relevant to their respective eras. Could this indicate a deeper systemic problem? It is unlikely that we will ever know, and their heinous crimes may remain obscured in the annals of history. So what about modern times? Do we have examples of vampires in a more modern context? Or perhaps of humans or organizations who partake in activities that are similar to what a vampire would do? It turns out there is an abundance of examples, and we will talk about a couple now. Our first example of a modern-day monster takes us back to Belgium in the 1990s. Marc Dutroux came into the spotlight in the mid-1990s for his involvement in a series of horrifying crimes that shocked the nation. Dutroux was convicted of abducting, imprisoning, and sexually abusing several young girls between 1995 and 1996. Tragically, several of his victims did not survive, leading to a public outcry and raising questions about systemic failures in the Belgian criminal justice system. One of the victims spoke out, mentioning he might not be operating by himself. Even Dutroux's lawyer, Ronnie Baudevin, remarked on Dutroux's carefree, almost naive approach to how he carried out his horrendous crimes.
He got caught because he went to kidnap a child in his own car, on which he had put his own license plates. The only thing missing on that car was just the mark Marc Dutroux, kidnapper of children.
When asked why he believed this to be the case, he cited the possibility of Bill being shielded by wealthy and influential individuals.
Or there is one other solution. He knew that he was not going to be caught, that he was protected in some way.
This belief is widespread among a significant portion of Belgium's population. Some even speculate that politicians and royalty have their influence in play.
When it comes to the police investigation, there's no doubt that there has been colossal incompetence. But for many Belgians, that doesn't go anywhere near explaining the Dutroux case. For them, there's something much more sinister at play here. There's a widespread belief that Dutroux was just one cog in a sophisticated network of pedophiles, powerful people who used their influence to help him. So powerful, they included politicians, judges, even members of the royal household.
While there is no concrete evidence supporting such claims, the suspicion persists. You might wonder why so many people cling to such far-fetched claims. Well, let's briefly summarise the trail of evidence the local police chose to ignore. There was an extensive search for the missing children, with numerous tips suggesting Dutroux's involvement in the abductions, including his own mum. Furthermore, during the search, Dutroux was already on the police radar for related crimes. There was even a search in his house, after the tip claiming he was hiding the children in his basement. But the policeman in charge of the search couldn't find anything. According to reports, the police heard children screaming, but Dutroux convinced the police the crying came from outside. It seems as though the police may have been reluctant to uncover any evidence. They also found the DNA from at least 26 different individuals in his house. It took the pressure of 300,000 people demonstrating for the police to finally find enough evidence to convict Dutroux. Certainly raises suspicions, doesn't it? Could it be possible that he was a pawn manipulated by the wealthy elites? Just one cog in a more sophisticated network. This isn't to say he wasn't a disturbed individual who relished in his sinister role. Before we move on with our next pale freak, please, allow me to promote our cause with a brief advertisement for our political t-shirt store. Revolutionize your wardrobe and make a bold statement with our politically charged t-shirts. Designed to awaken and inspire critical thought. Crafted from premium materials for comfort and durability, these tees aren't just clothing. They're a symbol of your commitment to making a difference. Stand out from the crowd, spark conversations, and showcase your beliefs proudly. Join the movement and wear your values on your sleeve with our impactful political t-shirts. Next, we have probably the most notorious example of our time, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. If you have watched until now, I don't think there is a need to introduce them.
Bond. James Bond.
But we still need to establish a fundament before we dig deeper. Jeffrey Epstein, a financier and convicted sex offender, gained notoriety for his connections to high-profile individuals and allegations of sex trafficking. Born in 1953 in New York City, Epstein established himself as a wealthy financier, managing assets for billionaires and cultivating relationships with influential figures across various sectors. However, his facade crumbled in 2008 when he pleaded guilty to charges of soliciting prostitution from underage girls. Despite facing serious accusations, Epstein received a controversially lenient sentence, sparking public outrage and scrutiny of the justice system's handling of wealthy offenders. Epstein's connections to numerous powerful individuals, including politicians, business magnates, and celebrities, fueled speculation about his alleged involvement in a sophisticated sex trafficking operation. His mysterious wealth, lavish lifestyle, and private island in the Caribbean added to the intrigue surrounding his activities. Following renewed scrutiny in 2019, Epstein was arrested on federal charges of sex trafficking minors and conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking. However, prior to facing trial, he was discovered dead in his jail cell, officially declared a suicide, a circumstance that naturally gave rise to enduring conspiracy theories. Epstein's case continues to raise questions about the intersection of wealth, power, and justice, as well as the prevalence of sex trafficking among vulnerable populations. Considering Epstein came from nowhere, he must have tapped into the right niche that propelled him to become a billionaire. Let's not forget his partner in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell, daughter of media mogul Robert Maxwell, also known Mossad agent, became known for her socialite lifestyle and association with wealthy and influential figures. However, she faced intense scrutiny following allegations of facilitating Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring, leading to her arrest in 2020. Accused of grooming and recruiting underage girls for Epstein, she denied all charges. Her trial shed light on her alleged involvement in Epstein's criminal activities. The question arises, is the couple from hell only the tip of the iceberg? Are they only a frontman of said crime? At this point, I feel like a broken record. Are all these similarities merely coincidences? Again, might there be a systemic issue?
Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
There are dozens of different examples of hideous crimes that would let Edward Cullen blush. Alone in the 1980s, we could find a plethora of different cases. For example, a 60-minute video of an alleged victim of ritual abuse, or the Finders movement, which tells the story of a cult abducting and abusing children. The official narrative has always tried to discredit those cases as satanic panic. But can a simple catchphrase explain all those claims? Or is this just another way of protecting those monsters? I understand this might seem far-fetched, But could it be that the portrayal of the handsome, cunning, and intelligent vampire we see today is simply a ploy to normalise these creatures in society? If you liked this video, please subscribe to our channel and hit the thumbs up button. We at Awakening Apes would really appreciate the support. For some reason, the almighty YouTube algorithm doesn't like you to awaken. Thanks and see you next video.